Hello, everyone. This is another episode of Kaiju Talks. This is Jared.
This is Carter.
And today, I know we're going to be a little overdue on this one, but we're going to be talking about Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, our thoughts on the film in general, and, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that is it.
I will say I was pleasantly surprised. I know Marvel, and we have mentioned this in a video previously to this, that Marvel has been going down this kind of weird little downward spiral. But with this one, though it was, there were definitely some flaws with it still, but I left watching it on a very good note, right?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Like, I kind of heard mixed reviews of it when I went into watching it, and you know what? It did what a good movie does, and it entertained me for 2.5 hours or whatever, so I enjoyed it, and I never felt like it was, like, dragging on or whatever. Like, it was good.
I think, what they did was for T'Challa's death, they did what they could.
Well, I mean, how do you, like, the death of the superhero, right? Like, you can't have him just die in battle and not show that on screen, right? So obviously they have to have some other sort of way of killing him off, for lack of a better way of putting it. But it's like, and having him die of cancer or whatever it was, or whatever disease they say in the movie, I don't think they ever specified, do they, or anything, but
See, and that's one thing I will say I do kind of wish they did kind of touch up on a bit more, because it just seemed like a part of me did feel like that moment was a little bit just thrown in there.
Well, but I mean, how do you deal with the death of the actor? I mean, Chadwick Boseman died. Like, how do you can't just, like, not have a scene like that in there.
You know what? Actually, I was expecting, because before I went to go see it, could have been like a virus or a plague that was kind of affecting all of Wakanda almost. I thought that would have been kind of like an interesting thing to do, but I guess
it's a little too close to home for COVID related.
Yeah, I guess. But you know what I mean? Like, I kind of felt like that was going to be kind of like a pivotal moment in the story where Wakanda itself is dealing with this.
Gotcha.
And they're trying to stop the spread leaving Wakanda while at the same time dealing with Namor's people.
Right.
But, like I said, they did what they could.
Yeah, I think they handled it well. They kind of handled it the best way they could in terms of, writing out a character when the actor dies and doing it in a respectful way that's not, negative to the story or anything.
What really stood out for me was the performances, especially from Angela Bassett.
Yeah, she was nominated for an Oscar for it, so clearly it was a award-worthy performance.
I would even say, like, Suri, you felt her pain.
I think the way they handled her character in this movie compared to the previous movie was really good, and the way that she portrayed the character was excellent.
Like, you got her in the first one. She was a very overconfident character. She could do no wrong type of... Like, that's the type of feeling I got from her, but in this one, it was, like, completely 180. Like, you saw the dark side of her.
Yeah, you see the downfalls and whatnot, and shortcomings,
And I loved when she took the serum to become the next Black Panther, and instead of seeing her family member, she saw Killmonger. I thought that was a great way of bringing in that character.
Yeah, I really like that scene.
And I thought, like, this is getting way more interesting.
Yeah, it adds that level of depth to it, where it's like now she's, instead of seeing, you'd think that she'd see T'Challa or someone, right? Obviously, they can't have Chadwick Boseman, but like showing Killmongers, it's a really interesting way of adding depth to that part of the story.
I loved Namor as a character. I mean, well, it's funny because you and I kind of have not a disagreement, but I guess we're kind of wondering. Personally, for me, I do see him as a villain, but he's more like a neutral. He's like I would say he's like a neutral or a necessary evil.
Yeah, definitely. Like, he's not, especially because you get so much of his backstory about him and his people, and it's like he's not really a bad guy because he's just trying to do what's best for his people or whatever, right? So, and obviously by the end of the movie, the two have joined forces. But yeah, I liked him as a villain because he did have like there was a good side to him, and he wasn't like fully a bad guy who was just out to cause evil for no reason. He had purpose, and that makes for an interesting character and an interesting bad guy, because it's like it gives your hero that moment of like, well, he is our enemy, but at the same time we can understand the angle he's coming from, right? So it's a good balance. They really slapped that ending together quite quickly. Now that I think about it, I forgot about this, and everything leading up to it was pretty good. But that ending, like where they're fighting on the beach, there's that cool fight scene on the beach, but it only lasts for like a minute. It was so short, and then she kind of knocks him down, and he's like, "Okay, fine, I'll join you." And then they just fly back to the other ship where everyone else is fighting, and it's just like, "Stop fighting! We have joined teams or whatever." And it's kind of like, oh, okay, this seems really, really forced. I mean, I like the idea that in the end they, wrapping the story up that way, that they did join forces and whatnot. It makes sense. But I think that the way they did it in that third act was not very good.
Was rushed.
It was pretty rushed.
It was
kind of like they're writing the movie and filming it like, oh shoot, we got to end this. What do we do? I don't know. She knocks him down. They join forces and go back to the boat. The end. All right, sweet.
I will say her cutting his ankle made me feel.
Oh yeah,
made me feel that pain too.
Cutting the wing off. Yeah,
I was like, oh damn, that looks like it hurt.
That's what I mean. Like that fight scene on the beach was really cool. It was just like way too short. It was just, it could have been a lot longer and a lot more interesting.
You know, one thing I would have kind of wished they did instead, you know, like how they introduced Namor.
When he comes up from underwater, meets him on the beach. Or whatever.
It's just, to me, that seemed very like rushed as well, and just like literally the first line, it says, "My name is so and so, but my enemies call me Namor." I'm like, why would you introduce yourself like that? Like, to me,
I mean, Han Solo's first line in Star Wars is, "Hey, I'm Han Solo, crazy good pilot," or something like that. I mean, it's not verbatim, but that's basically how his first line in Star Wars. So
you know what? I kind of wish, for me at least, like as a viewer after watching it, like, you know, I can't help but feel like this is kind of what I would have done in a way. Was I would have kind of done this where they already knew about Namor and these people. I would have actually, I think it would have been more tragic, the way they became enemies, was if they actually were on good standing with each other to begin with. You know, it would have been interesting to have had them actually at T'Challa's funeral, maybe, because they actually, you know, knew about each other, and you'd think that at least they would have had some respect for each other. But then Namor's finding out that the surface world is finding them.
Yeah.
And then he comes to them for help. They could have still dealt with the whole Ironheart character, where, you know, she's doing all this technology for the government, and, like, you know, he's begging for the help, but they're like, well, no, we won't kill this girl for you, or help you kill this girl. That's wrong. And then that's what kind of starts kind of the war.
It could. Yeah, I mean, the whole movie in general, like, it was entertaining for the 2.5 hours, but yeah, it definitely could have been a tighter movie. It could have had a better story. It could have been tighter for sure. It definitely was lacking in some, and even like Ironheart, her character also seemed kind of forced in there, and, you know, really sort of, they didn't explore it enough. I'm sure she's going to be coming back as like an Avenger or something, or whatever it's going to be. They'll explore it more, but
I do agree. Like, yeah, no, this isn't the last time we've seen her, but I do agree. I really wish we would have kind of got a little bit more in depth with her. I wish we kind of understood why she's inspired by Tony Stark.
Yeah,
I would have loved to.
I actually so I was watching the movie, and when it comes to that last scene when she flies in her whatever Iron Man sort of style costume or whatever, I like had forgotten who she even was. I'm like, who is this character, and how does she suddenly know how to use this suit? Like that's, you know, it was just like, yeah, they really.
It was just again another rush situation. You know, another thing that kind of bugged me, I guess you'd say, at T'Challa's funeral, where the hell were the other Avengers? Like, where were everyone that he's fought alongside?
Maybe Marvel didn't have enough money to pay Chris Evans and all those guys to be there.
Was it a Deadpool situation where, you know, where Deadpool's just
we're going to go to the Professor X's mansion, and no one's there except these two X-Men who no one's heard of before.
You know, it's like the studio couldn't afford another X-Men. I thought maybe that's the type of situation, but it just, in my opinion...
I hear you, though, yeah.
But, though by now, Captain America would have been deceased.
And Iron Man was gone, but there's still failures who should have been there.
There would have been.
Could have had. Well, I guess Thor was off traveling with the Guardians of the Galaxy
at that point.
All right. I mean, Eric Bana. I mean, sorry, not Eric Bana. Dr. Bruce Banner. I'm thinking of the guy who played the Hulk in fucking that Ang Lee movie years ago.
No, it would have part out. There would have been. There would have been a Bruce Banner. There would have been.
That's what I'm saying. Like
Winter
Bruce Banner
Soldier
could have been there. Winter Soldier. Yeah, there's characters who could have been.
And
there.
of all people, you think would have think Bucky would have been there, because T'Challa helped him out so much.
Right, because he went to Wakanda to recover after.
Yeah, and I just thought that was just like, why this? To me, I'm like,
yeah, I wonder if that's like an overlooked thing, or if that's more just they couldn't afford it in terms of the production. It's interesting, actually.
You know, it just, even though they would have only been in there for a very short period of time.
Oh yeah, you'd need those guys on set for one day. Like, it wouldn't be that much, you know.
No, what I'm trying to get at is that it's just like, sure, they wouldn't have been there that long, but at least it would have shown these characters still care for one another, regardless of where they're at, what status they're at, type of thing.
Yeah.
And that I was a little disappointed of, you know, and I'm watching this, I'm like, where are all these other characters that should have been, like, there for Shuri and the Queen, right? That would have been there to support them through their very dark moment in history. They didn't have to be there for the whole movie.
Yeah.
But they could have been there for that moment, and that to me would have been something I would have liked to see, but I don't know the reasoning behind that. I know I'm sure there is why the production chose to not go that route.
Yeah. Well, I mean, was it just overlooked in the script, or was it like, like just
I think maybe it was the type of thing, like
a little bit column A, a little bit column B.
Well, it's funny because maybe you can almost compare it to, I know this is completely different. Look at ER, the show ER, when one of the character Mark Green died, right? And George Clooney's character was his like best friend in the show, but George Clooney during his funeral, George Clooney wasn't there because George Clooney said, "Oh, like I feel like if I was there, it would have overshadowed his death."
Oh, yeah, like a sort of a guest appearance. Or
yeah, but I'm just like, okay, but that's so out of character for you not have been there, though.
Yeah.
So maybe they were thinking that maybe if they brought on all these other characters, it would have overshadowed Chadwick Boseman's death.
I think it would have been a good tribute. I think it would have made sense. Mm-hmm. Anyway.
But in general, I do look forward to seeing what Suri will bring to the table, and because she'll be, she's obviously the next Black Panther, and I look forward to seeing what this is going to bring down the future. I do hope that.
Well, I mean, obviously now they've joined forces with Namor, so obviously the Namor's people and whatnot are going to come into the story a lot more. I assume in the next Avengers movie or whatever.
Well,
so
Namor
that should be interesting.
Namor has been. It has been announced. Namor will be.
All that close
Namor will be in the next Avengers film.
Namor
apparently.
will return.
But like I said, like I don't really. Sure, like you and me have discussed, this movie does have its flaws, but it's not a terrible. Like some people just attack this film, and I'm like, when I saw it, it's just like I'm having a hard time understanding why you're complaining about this film. And they had to do with what they could.
I think that's just comes down to people complaining about Marvel movies in general. Like I go into a Marvel movie knowing what I'm expecting, and it's like they generally don't let me down. It's like I know it's gonna just be sort of like pretty superfluous and surface level and kind of entertaining for 2 hours and a popcorn flick, and that's what I get. And so I'm not expecting some like super heady cerebral movie where I have to like think and decipher clues and codes and whatnot. I know that's not what I'm getting into for. I'm going for a 2 hour like joyride basically to just like watch a movie and have some fun.
It's not a Christopher Nolan film.
Exactly.
Where you feel absolutely stupid watching those movies.
Well, thanks for joining us in this one. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Wakanda Forever. Drop that in the comments below. We look forward to reading it.
Please like and subscribe.
And we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you.